The Cheat is an American film that was released in 1915. Now, I do want to say this because I saw where several people said that the film was delayed, and that's why in one scene you see a check that says 1918. No, this film was re-released, and the reason for that is because Japanese Americans were actually protesting this film. Okay. And so, yes, it was re-released in 1918. Okay. So I have here where it says, upon its release, the character of Hishuru Tori, which is Sessue Hayakawa's character, was described as a Japanese ivory merchant. Japanese Americans protested against the film for portraying a Japanese person as sinister. And I do have to also say that when I looked up more on Sessue Hayakawa, he spoke out about this throughout his career. He really wanted to play a hero throughout his entire career, and so yeah. um Keep going. In particular, a Japanese newspaper in Los Angeles, Rafu Shimpo, waged a campaign against the film and heavily criticized Hayakawa's appearance. When the film was re-released in 1918, the character of Hishuru was renamed Haka Arakau, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, and described in the title cards as a Burmese ivory king. The change in the character's name was and nationality were done because Japan was an American ally at the time. Okay, so that's the reason why in that one scene where you see the check and you see it in 1918, there wasn't a delay. No, it was the fact that there were these protests that were going on, and so Cecil B. DeMille re-released in 1980, and there were changes, little changes here and there, especially the name. Okay, so I wanted to correct all of that. Now, as for the story itself, I want to also point this out because, okay, so the title is The Cheat, and I figured, okay, I've seen movies like this before, and so whatever. No. Oh, Cecil B. DeMille will get you on this one because you got to watch the entire movie. Okay. So it starts off with Edith Hardy. She is an aristocrat wife who loves extravagance. So, yeah, rich, spoiled brat lady. And she loves expensive everything. And of course, her husband is working hard to pay the bills and all of this. And he's been following this particular stock. Okay. Now she hangs out with this ivory merchant, this cheap ivory merchant named Hishuru Tori, which was, of course, changed later. And that's Sessue Hayakawa's character. And he's very good looking. And as it says here, a dangerously sexy man. That's an understatement. He was very good looking. Okay, so she hangs out with him. Now, I do have to say that when I was watching the film, I think her personality is just that she's friendly and kind of flirtatious with everybody. I've known people like that. But I think that he latched on to that because the way that he was acting was very romantic towards her, and she didn't catch on to that at all. Okay, so I want to make that perfectly clear as to how I personally saw it. Okay, so then she is the treasurer for the Red Cross, and it turns out that um, they are going to send money away to Belgian refugees. Okay, there's this party, and it's at Tori's house. Okay, so the party is going, and she talks to a mutual friend of that's also the friend of her husband. And this friend says, well, I've actually been following this stock that I think is a lot better than what your husband has been following, and I can double your money. Well, yeah, she's greedy. So what she does is she actually dips into the being the treasurer, she dips in and she steals money from the Red Cross, gives him the amount that he asks for, and then he runs off. Okay. And so at Tori's house, he's walking around showing her all these little treasures and everything. And then the next thing you know, they find out about the stocks, and she realizes that all the money is gone. She has a freak out, and Tori says that he can help her, but she has to do favors. Okay, well, then the next day, the husband says, "Well, the stock that I was following was a big payout. I mean, it worked." And it was, but and then of course the story goes from there, and and everything. Now, I gotta say, I mean, I was impressed with Sessue Hayakawa's performance in Dragon Painter, and after seeing that, a lot of people recommended this film. I was thoroughly impressed with his performance in this one. Okay, especially with that fight scene. I mean, between him and Fannie Ward, I got scared. Again, this is why you have to watch the entire movie because it's just because it has that title means nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing. And I've become a fan of Sessue Hayakawa just from these two films. And I was reading a lot of his films in the silent era are gone, which is too bad. But from what I have seen, he's a very talented man. Now, another thing that I was seeing was that a lot of people were saying, well, they need to remake this. Okay, do you realize how many remakes there were of this? Now again, they re-released it in 1918, but there was also a 1923 remake which had Poland Agree and Jack Holt. Then in 1931, I knew about the 1931 remake, and now in France they remade it, which had a lot of changes to the original story. And it turns out Sessua was in it and reprising his role. And funny enough, that French version from 1937, there was an opera adaptation. Yes. And it didn't last long, though. It, it really did not last long. Um, oh no, it did. No, this one was from in 1921. I thought that it was in 1930. So it looks like the movie was based off of the opera. So the opera came first. I got them switched around, but the opera only lasted three performances. Yeah, it was not a success at all. So anyway, this is The Cheat. It was originally released in 1915. It is an American film.